Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of In My Opinion. Is John.
My name is Lester.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to everybody. Welcome back to everybody.
Welcome back to
another episode.
everybody. Yeah. Welcome back to everybody. Another episode.
I'm so confused. Welcome back to another episode of In My Opinion. Today we'll be talking about a rather juicy topic, but before we go into it, please do follow us on Instagram, on Telegram. And we also follow us on Twitch and join our Twitch streams. We are twitch.tv/overthinkSG and everything else is overthinkSG as well. So easier for you guys to know, follow us for updates when the new episode comes out, when the stream is out and we are streaming or anything like that, you know? Yes, please do follow us.
And everywhere, which means like Telegram, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. Oh yeah, but
TikTok soon. Soon things might be coming out. But yes, today let's get to today's topic. All right. So today's topic is something that we feel like we will be a bit remiss if we didn't talk about it. It's in the hot news for the last 2 weeks or so.
By the time this video come out, maybe not so hot, but you know lah.
It's lukewarm by the time this one comes out, but it's fine. You know, lukewarm meals are still better than cold meals. So let's go. I have no idea where I was going with that. But yes,
drama is like pizza. Even when it's cold,
still nice.
It's still pretty good.
Fair enough. Okay, fair. Let's go. Okay, so today we'll be talking a little bit. The question that we want to ask is, are influencer apologies ever enough? Or will influencers' apologies ever be enough? And really, we didn't want, even though this is very obviously a call out to like the NOC drama that's been happening. If you guys don't know what's happening, I'll link some links down below to Mushtsharenews and everything like that you guys can keep up with the ongoing developments in the story. But basically, the TLDR for the people who don't know is that Silver was being accused of, I guess, not handling employee relationships very well.
Being unprofessional, I guess.
Being unprofessional. And basically, there was a cease and desist letter to an Instagram account that was basically exposing all of this, actually Chicken Rice.
Yeah.
And after that, Sylvia also came out and apologized by herself. And the reason why we even have this conversation is because after the apology by Sylvia, a lot of people were still very upset. And in fact, we were just having like a 1 hour long chat with our Twitch chat, so do join us. But basically, they were also very upset. Most of the people were very upset with the apology. And that's what got me thinking, like, actually so far, all the influencer dramas that we have seen, so far, none of them has ever gave a quote-unquote good enough apology for the public opinion to let off. Right?
Okay.
So that's why the question that I posed in this title is, are influencers' apologies ever going to be enough? But before that, I think you can break down the topic a little bit into smaller bite-sized pieces. First, what do you think of Sylvia's I guess, apology?
Okay. If I were to really zoom out and take a mega step back to like think about how it was handled, right? We don't even talk about the content of the apology, right? We talk about how it was handled, right? Where the way it was presented and everything, right? I think it could have been done better.
Okay, yeah. In what way, John?
Okay, so purely because, like, for example, they are a social media production house. Right? I mean, social media production house. It may not be the most accurate term, but you know what I mean.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, as a social media production house and as somebody who is basically synonymous with the brand, right? You need to come in with basically guns blazing, begging for forgiveness.
Yes, I agree.
Instead of coming in trying to legalize or whatever first, because the first thing that appeared in the news was that NOC was ponying up with a lawyer.
Yeah, it was not a good first impression, to say the least, because I think the first,
a very good PR move.
Yeah, on the very least because the first thing after all the accusations and it started blowing up on internet and everything, the first thing they did was the first official thing that released was a cease and desist. There was no apology, no nothing. So I think everyone was kind of taken aback. Everyone was like, "Whoa, they are fighting this. They are trying to go against this. They're not apologizing or owning up to their mistakes." And I think that kind of ruined a lot of the impressions of how people were thought of the organization or thought of Sylvia, right? But I think, honestly speaking, and I'll go into this a little bit more, I didn't think Sylvia's apology was that bad. I thought it was pretty fine. I thought it was okay. Could it
Yeah.
have been done better? That one I agree with you. It could have
Yeah.
been done a lot better, and it should have been done a lot better. But in
Yeah.
the grand scheme, if I just take the apology by itself and read the words, I thought it was fine. But I think the first thing that you mentioned before we rolled the camera as well is the idea of immediacy and the idea of like having like the same fervent want to I guess pursue the forgiveness as much as you will post like a good thing. You have to pursue that. You have to pursue the bad things with the same, I guess, enthusiasm, even though it's very difficult.
Yes.
So,
yes.
In that sense, do you think that's the core reason of why this apology didn't really stand up in your head?
Let me just put it out there that yes, okay, absolutely yes. Now, because we, like I mentioned, we are social media. They are a social media production house.
Yes.
Right. Whatever you call it, huh? And the thing about it is that like she is synonymous with the brand, right? So by that nature, right, the timeliness and the importance of being first to post or first mover advantage or that kind of thing on social media is absolutely not lost to them.
I agree.
In fact, right, it is their rice bowl that they have to be savvy about social media.
I agree.
And as a result, when you talk about things like immediacy and relevancy and how quickly they respond to a accusation, whether it's true or not, it's called responding to accusation, right? Has to follow the same function.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Have to follow the same formula.
I agree.
And the reason why is because you have to appeal to your audience. Right? Besides the victims, right? When you want to talk about a public platform, you have to appeal to your audience.
I agree. I think it's also tougher in this case because it's through the internet. Like, I think because on internet, like whether we like it or not, a lot of the bodily cues or like the normal social cues that you will get from a normal apology and how to judge whether someone is sincere or not are not present. Like if it were like face to face, let's say I disappointed John and I apologize sincerely face to face, he will be able to tell whether I'm sincere, just not just based on the words, but based on my body language and based on how I approached it and how I asked for forgiveness. He will be able to get it. But in this case, because it's the internet and she did it through text, she did it through a notepad kind of situation, it's a bit difficult to come out with to show sincerity other than through words, which I'll go into later. That's a little bit difficult to show sincerity and people can take whatever they want out of it. And second of all is the timeliness of the apology, because these are the two things left that comes out of sincerity that people will judge from. So I understand that it's probably a lot more difficult to apologize on the internet, and I think that's the number one reason why influencer apologies are probably never going to be enough, because it's never a good substitute for like face to face. Even if they take a video, a lot of the bodily like social cues that you would otherwise would have gotten and we were able to get sincerity out from, you don't have on the internet.
Yes. But that being said, also, we have to define about being enough. Because if we're talking about the context of being enough to the general public, right?
Yeah.
Then it may be insurmountable. But being enough for like the victims, right? Then it's not for us to decide.
It's not for us to decide. Yes,
but if we were to talk about it in a sense that if we were to put ourselves in the shoes of the victims, for example, right? Right? And incident that is the exact same case study as what's happening with NOC, right? Then as a victim in that kind of situation, I would like them to have basically put in the same amount of gusto that they've done to tear me down into their apology, because that will be how like a equivalent justice is done. It's like you do something bad, right? You must apologize with the same level of badness.
Yes.
And energy as the badness.
Yeah. I think that's a good way of thinking about it as well, because I guess what some people are very upset about is the fact that it took 2 weeks to apologize for this, or at least address this. And the first thing that came was a lawyer letter prior to the sincere apology. I have said on the stream that honestly, I'm not that upset about the fact that it took 2 weeks, because I feel like to Sylvia, and I will understand why, the main concern is to handle the company. and handle the internal problems that within the company first. So let's say if I was Sylvia, the first thing I would do is apologize to the company and make sure everyone in the company is fine. Because honestly speaking, that's the most important. And then the victims as well. The victims and the company both, I think, are the most important. So I'll spend my time apologizing to the victims, spend my time apologizing to the company, gathering feedback, understanding how I can do better, reflecting upon my actions, etc. That's why I didn't mind too much that it took 2 weeks. And I also think that she has been talking to the victims, at least from what I know. Like, at least she said that she'd be talking to Samantha, and I know that's a whole other saga that we will not get into because we don't want to get sued. But basically, there's a whole other saga. But they have talked, and they have, at least from what Samantha said, kind of came to agreement or made peace with it until the new allegations came out. So I didn't mind that it took as long as it did, because I was saying that, like, I think if I were in her position, to admit that I was wrong probably will take a lot longer and it will be a lot harder. And understanding what I need to do to get apology and get forgiveness will probably be a lot harder than we are making out to be saying it on a podcast and a third person's point of view.
It's true. It's absolutely true. But the thing about it is that you must understand that consequences for your actions come in various forms. And being on social media, having built your entire empire on social media, it comes with the arena, right?
That's true.
That if it comes with the same consequence, I mean, the consequences for slapping someone on the street is very different from the consequences that come from offending someone on social media, right? Very different things, right? But as a result, right, you must be able to work within the system to regain your reputation or regain as much as you've lost, if that's your intention. Because after all, everyone's a survivalist at heart, right?
Yes.
So if you want your legacy to survive, it must be done in a way that can weather this storm.
I agree.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So if you do approach like how company A, straight away my thought is to protect my company.
Yes.
Right. Can is can, but it may not necessarily be the best move to make in the minefield that is social media.
I think it's also a lot more complicated there, because I remember, so I also think that the cease and desist letter wasn't that big of a deal to me. I think it's a big deal. I don't think they should have done it, but I can kind of understand why. Okay, maybe I rephrase it. I don't think they should have done it, but I can understand why they did it. I think especially...
same. Absolutely. As a company, these are things that you do have to try to do to try to mitigate damage to your company. Now, why is this an issue here, right? It's because firstly, there's a personality that is synonymous to the brand.
Yes.
And secondly, the product is, like we mentioned earlier just now off camera, the product is the audience. The audience's attention. Right? The audience's attention is the product. And as a result, the audience suddenly has a stake in your payout.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So all these factors come together, make you unable to just purely function like a accounting firm.
Yeah, I think there's like a little bit of a issue, because a little bit of a complication, especially what you say, because they are a media company. And I was saying that we were talking about it off stream and said that like really the apology should go to the victims. Like those are the people who need the apology, and the people who should be the ones deciding whether the apology is enough. It's not us. She didn't disappoint us per se. It's not us as the she didn't hurt us, basically. Like, she hurt the victims, and therefore they are the ones that should be the ones that deciding whether an apology is enough, not us. But at the same time, you can kind of understand why people are so, I guess, involved in this, partially because there is, I mean, as you said, we are the product, and we are the ones that they kind of have to please. It's not like a different industry. Let's say it's another industry where maybe the public
let's say they trade oil.
Maybe it's trade oil. I don't think the same thing would necessarily apply. And it
wouldn't play out the way it did.
It doesn't really matter. So I think, like, in this case, it's a lot more complicated. So I do recognize that. But I think going on to, like, I guess we want to know about like what we want to like I guess break down what a good apology is or what we think an apology should involve. First of all, we talk about
Yeah.
immediacy, we talk about enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is probably not a good word, but immediacy kind of covers that. But I also want to cover a little bit on like the wording and the way it was done in terms of the I don't want to use the word taxonomy, the structure of the apology or the word choice of the apology.
Yeah.
And I think that's also quite important especially in the influencer apology era. Yeah, it's sphere. Because that's the only thing they can use is the words and the written word.
Yeah.
And I think Denzel is our mod on Twitch. What's up, Denzel, if you're watching this on YouTube? But basically, Denzel on Twitch, our mod, basically he said something along the lines he was very upset that the first thing she said was excuses, or rather like the reasons why she acted up or the reasons why she might have crossed the line and not apologize first. Did you find that as I guess as much of a red flag as he did, or is it okay to you in your eyes?
I was gonna say that was a little bit red flaggy because the thing about it is that apologies are less less effective than they used to be, because with the number of fake apologies that people have done, all that kind of thing. So like the way you express it, which what you mentioned earlier, especially if you talk about social media and influencer and stuff like that, is very, very, very important. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it becomes imperative, right? That you have to mitigate all this and tread carefully.
Yes.
Because you cannot rush in headlong. Like I mentioned, you see, you're an industry leader in social media. You understand how content is meant to be carried out. When you fuck up on the internet, you also have to carry it out the same way you carry out content.
I agree.
Right? Content that is palatable, appropriate to the platform, and in a way that achieves your purpose, right?
And
as a result, all these red flags have to be noted. Unfortunately, as much as it's kind of crazy to say,
it's tough.
You have to content strategize your apology.
It's tough because I can understand why people would see this as a huge red flag, because it is one very, very, I guess, red flaggy part of apologies, even if it's not internet. Let's say if I let's do the same example. I disappointed John one day, and I say let's say I insulted him on the internet, and instead of coming in and say like, hey, I'm sorry man, like that was out of line, I should have done that, I apologize, is there anything I can do to make it better? Instead of saying that, I said, hey, sorry man, but actually that day like I had a fucking bad day, my exam results damn bad, that kind of thing. Then you'll be like, hey bro, that does not excuse any of the things that you did. And that's a very, very big red flag. I understand why.
Exactly.
At the same time, I don't think it was that bad. Because, okay, I read it, right? When I read it, my first reaction was, I thought that was a very reflective apology. I might be very gullible and naive, so call me out if you think I am. But I personally thought that it showed that she truly like thought about it. And she truly went through the whole thought process of like what she did wrong, why it went wrong, and exactly what she thought while she's getting called out.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a good thing to have, especially when it comes to
Let me explain to you why it didn't suffice. For a very clear reason, right?
Yeah.
Which is her quote unquote crime, right? It's not one where a not that bad apology would suffice.
Okay. So it matters,
like for example, if let's say, of course it does. It absolutely does. If let's say I accidentally misgender someone in a video. It's quite serious, especially for the victim, right?
Yes, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
But is it as serious as an employer slandering employee on social media?
Tough to okay, I guess there's different severities of cases, basically.
Tough to argue, but the level of severity feels like there's a difference here. It may not. It's difficult to call which one more severe, which one more.
There's a difference. Yeah,
there feels like there's a difference in severity, right?
I don't know which one's worse, to be honest. Yeah,
exactly, and hence there is a sort of like
different strategy for
here in the person's head, lah. Yeah, and the approach will be slightly different, you see. And like the misgendering, for example, if we continue with the headcanon here, right? If it's done in an accidental capacity, then an apology that addresses it, it may be done terribly that day. I didn't read blah, blah, blah. It may be easier for the victim to forgive, then if the power dynamic is different and the context of conversation is different, and after that it becomes like an employer-employee kind of situation, even worse.
I think the
Right?
power dynamic thing that you brought up was very important as well. I think that's another big issue within this whole saga. Saga? Do you call it saga? This whole saga in the first place was that there was a very clear difference in power dynamics. And because of that, like I think people are generally more wary about it as well. It's versus like John and, let's say John and I, and if I publicly apologize to John one day, it will be less. I think it would have been less of an issue versus if I were his boss. You know? I think the power dynamics is very important. And even the misgendering thing if you go on the hate channel of the misgendering thing, if people perceive the power difference to be like between influencer or personality with a certain amount of following and someone who is like just like trying to live their life like just chilling, then there's also that power dynamic that makes it a lot more complicated, and therefore the apology needs to be a bit more nuanced. And I agree with that. It needs to be tailored.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, this is the key. You know, this is the crux of the issue here, right? And why is it that the internet is all up in arms? Is because of the fact that the product is the internet.
Yeah.
And you cannot discount that these people have an impact on the conversation as well.
I agree. Yeah. But
so as a result, right, suddenly it has to be handled doubly and triply more delicately if you want to survive.
If you want to actually get forgiveness, probably the best way to do about it. I do think that the reason why I wasn't that upset about it was because I as I said, I thought it just showed a lot of reflection. And I personally didn't think that she was trying to excuse herself. In fact, many times in the apology, she said that like this does not if I'm not wrong, she said that this does not excuse my behavior and I'll become better and I'll strive to be a better leader and a better person. And I thought that was good. I thought that it was continue. Go ahead, Jun.
Now that being said, right, I would like to preface this first by saying that like I think all apologies, I mean, we always want to be balanced in our discussion, right?
Yeah.
We can talk about people having a better apology, blah, 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 blah. But as someone receiving an apology, it's also prudent to always accept every single apology as magnanimously as you can.
I guess. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And thus, we ought to view from the victim's point of view, if let's say we were put in the victim position, we always want to try to receive all apologies as with as open arms as possible and forgive as soon as possible, because the putting down this backpack of yours, you know, this baggage of yours also helps you to get away from it as well.
Yeah,
so that's one thing.
Yeah, I agree.
That being said, about whether the apology was a good thing or a bad thing, right? It's very iffy, I understand. But at the same time, I also don't want to discredit the effort that was put into the current apology already. So as a result, I would say that there's no real such thing as like a bad apology.
Okay. So just apologizing is...
There are better apologies.
There are better apologies. I agree. That one I agree. I think it could have been done, first of all, a lot sooner. And second of all, I think she should have been a bit more sensitive in the way she was wording the apology. But generally speaking, I thought it wasn't too bad. Like, I actually thought that she wasn't trying to excuse herself that much. And generally, as much as Denzel said that like it would have been a little bit better if she had put the first part of the apology to the bottom, like explain her why she might have went wrong and explain I guess the thought process when she was getting called out at the end as like a side note kind of thing. It would have been a bit better. And as much as I don't think the internet would have treated it any differently, I think it might have been a little bit better. So those are some things that could have been done a little bit better. But in terms of like just purely having it just by itself, I actually thought that explaining her thought process and explaining why she did the things that she did and explaining why she might have crossed the line without even knowing she crossed the line was actually a good thing to do. Because I was telling John this, like, if one day like John if I messed up in work, let's say, and and instead of like I apologize, I say I will apologize because I messed up at work, right? So I apologize and I fixed the problem, let's say, and if I didn't explain why I messed up, right, it would have been a little bit, not say weird, but a little bit, it feel like something is missing. Because it's like, like, hey, why you just like suddenly just messed up? There's a bit of a trust loss there. So if any apology, right, even in my own day-to-day lives, I will want to at least know like, hey, you did me wrong, like, or you messed up, or you disappointed me. Is there like a reason? Like, do you want to reflect a little bit of the reason why? So I actually thought that it was a good thing that she said it out. But that's just me, John.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you that like it was a well thought out apology. You know, it's like worded with reflection, blah 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 blah, all this kind of thing. I totally agree with you. But that's not the issue here. You see, because you see, when you do something serious enough in terms of the severity, right, and then after that, right, you ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
You don't ask for forgiveness. You beg for forgiveness, and you pray the person will forgive you after your forgiveness. This is not mutually exclusive and can, in fact, ideally should happen simultaneously with the well-written apology. So having a well-written, well-explained apology, right, does nothing for your level of groveling on the internet. In fact, if it's done too surgically,
it might come off insincere.
Exactly.
So
okay, that's what I think most people have the issue with here, right? Where's the groveling? Where's the begging for forgiveness? I know groveling is a terrible word, but hear me out while I use this word. Okay, I think a lot of people have lost the art of apology. When you've done something wrong, right, and then someone calls you out of it, and you have to ask for forgiveness, right? You retain zero pride, you retain zero ego, and you retain zero status. Nothing. You have nothing. And what can someone with nothing do? You grovel and you ask and beg for forgiveness, right? From the victim, not from the internet, from the victim. Right?
I agree.
Think about it. You see, if you've done a serious enough wrong to the person, you have made that person grovel in your presence. And then when this gets exposed as bad, now you are made to grovel. The internet, the universe is very fair.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to reap what you sow, right? So, where is the groveling when you have done a serious crime? You see, that's where the internet is up in arms about it, because like they're just like, hey, you did someone dirty. Why aren't you getting your hands dirty to earn back our belief? You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's
in that sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a difficult thing to come to as well. Like from someone that I was telling I keep saying I was telling John. I was telling John just before we rolled the cameras that if it were me, as much as I think I would have is eventually come to the same conclusion as we are right now, which is that we have to really the apology is only ever enough if the victim says enough. And it doesn't fucking matter what anyone else thinks or what we more think. Important what we think. Like it really matters what the victim thinks, because you're apologizing the victims. So that's what the one thing that matters. At the same I would understand that eventually. I'm very confident that I will, and I would have done whatever John said, like try like be sincere, do what you can, and really go above and beyond to try to get an apology. And I'm very sure that I would have done that. I think it's a lot harder than people think it is. That's my I guess my pitch to everyone, that it's probably not as easy as you think it is to do so.
But that's the thing, you see. People are waiting for people who have fucked up to do the hard thing.
That's true.
Not the easy thing.
That's true. That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Because if this person can come out, if someone who has fucked up can come out to do the hard thing, right? Firstly, the victim will probably forgive you easier.
Easier, yes.
Secondly, people who have experienced you doing the hard thing to right the wrong will have an easier time forgiving you as well. Because that's it. That's the entire point of trying to right a wrong. Hoping that people will see your effort and sincerity and put it behind them. Isn't it?
I agree. That's definitely correct. I think but I also do think that like the at the end of the day, the ones that let's go back to the topic about whether like influencer apologies ever be enough. Like when I was like discussing this topic, I was saying that like maybe that's really the wrong way to talk about it, because whether or not there'll be enough is not up to us to decide. It's really up to the people who they have hurt to decide.
Who are involved, right?
Who are involved to decide. And really, it really depends on the person himself. Like, okay, Mushi just asked, what is an acceptable level of reconciliation or outcome do you think is needed for the victims to feel like their grievances are addressed, assuming that apologies cannot be used? And the crazy thing is that there probably isn't an universal answer to that. And there will never be a universal answer to that. Because I was telling John, if like you do something wrong to someone and if they like, I say crudely, cut off your balls, and the person still says that they are not forgiving you and that's not enough. It's not enough. It's just not enough.
Some people after you unalive, they still bear grudge, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not enough.
And you see, that's how the hard thing comes into play here.
Yeah. Man.
Until the person forgives you, you can do nothing but work and pray that they do.
Exactly. Yeah, it's tough.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
So much so that you have your cause to study because a lot of kids cannot forgive their parents.
Yes, yeah. My whole course is based off the unwillingness to forgive. But yes, I don't know, man. In that case, right, I genuinely don't think, right, there will ever be a case of an influencer who come out and apologize to the internet, and the internet being 100% saying, actually, let's just forgive them.
Like it's all chill, right? No, that will never happen.
That will never happen. Which is rather sad, don't you think? Do you think it's sad that it will never happen?
I don't think it's sad, but like I think because I'm very stoic about this, I accept the way that it is, right?
Yeah.
The audience, if let's say you piss someone off on the internet, the audience will be, unfortunately, the audience is the currency of the internet. You have no choice.
Yeah.
And if the currency of the internet comes from people and people who are fickle, emotional people, don't be surprised if you do something wrong, the currency comes and whack you as the people that they are.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, your whole career / your whole living is really based off the fact that you are a social media influencer, and the social media influencer is based on the fact that people like you and people follow you. So
that people pay attention to you.
And people pay attention to you. And just equally, people can stop paying attention to you because it's their attention and their time, and they have, as much as they have the right to give you attention and give you money or whatever, they have the exact same right to take it away. So
correct.
In that sense,
you can justify that, like, after all these years, we built up all these kind of things. Yeah, but this one thing probably teared it all down because that's not what they signed up for, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a bit sad because I want to live in a world that people are a bit more willing to forgive, and that who are a bit more understanding about mistakes. Because like we can sit here and pretend and think that like, okay, maybe like it might look like we are like super morally upright or whatever.
Yeah.
But we do make our mistakes, and there are times that we do mess up. And I'm very sure even if we have not done so far, eventually one day we're going to have to we have to apologize for something that we do. 100%, because we are just human.
On the flip side, I don't want to wish for a world like you mentioned where everyone is forgiving of mistakes. Instead, what I wish for, right, is a world where people are always sincerely apologetic about theirs.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't want a forgiving world because I think that's like a wrong target to aim for. Right? I always want to aim for a forgiving world. This is not going to work out. In fact, we should aim towards an apologetic world, a world that will own up to their mistakes. That's a different world from one that forgives.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether people are forgiving or not is a separate thing. But the crux of the issue here is people have seemed to lost the ability to
apologize sincerely and admit that they're wrong. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I will wish for both. I wish for both. And I hope that people are able to, I guess, give the benefit of the doubt when we have to. Because especially on the internet, when you, as I said, you can't really judge sincerity as well. I would like for people to give the benefit of the doubt until proven wrong. But maybe that's just me. At the end of the day, we understand that, like, as John said, like, if we do one day mess up, and I'm sure we will one day somehow mess up, and we will have to apologize somehow, and we will apologize sincerely. I'm sure that the two of us will approach it in the way that we have been preaching to do so, to approach it with the same urgency, to approach it with the same sincerity that we would
Yes.
that we would have expected out of Sylvia or any other influencer for that
Yeah.
matter. But
Correct.
at the same time, I do want to ask the internet whether like to think about like maybe is there any apology that would have been good enough?
Yeah. Now,
And-
now, before we go any further, I do want to add on also that like
Yeah.
we're not trying to say that like apologies don't work, that you shouldn't be saying sorry if you do anything wrong. What
Definitely
we're
not.
saying
Yeah.
is that what we're saying is that there is additional action that you have to do in a faceless world, which is the internet, because you don't always get to see people's faces. In a faceless world and a voiceless world and a toneless world on the internet, there's so many additional other things that you have to do to supplement your apology so that people can have a better chance of believing that you are sincere in your apology. There are many things, right? Distancing yourself from your platform is one of those things, because like people understand that you're the platform. If you distance yourself and actually take some quote unquote damage for yourself, people will understand that hey, that's an active step. Active steps are always appreciated, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
that's what is happening. And I think that like, people shouldn't be afraid to say they're sorry or think that saying sorry doesn't matter because the internet is still going to hate them anyway. It should be, I still say sorry in spite of the fact that I accept that the internet is going to hate me anyway.
I agree. That one I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I don't think the end goal for your apology is to. I feel like you apologize because you're sorry and because you want to be a better person and you want to move on and acknowledge that you have messed up and try to ease the pain of the victims. I don't think your apology should be a PR move. I don't think your apology should be to gain the favor of the public, or your apology should be to increase your popularity or whatever the hell that might be. So those are I think your intention of apology needs to be right as well. So, I mean, personally, I don't think there'll ever be an influencer apology that will be good enough for the public. But I would like to know you guys, maybe not in Singapore but overseas, have you seen any influencer apology that you thought was good enough, and what made it good enough? I think that would be quite interesting to see in the comments down below.
Yeah.
I want to know the factors that you guys look at, because I think even as a psychology student, that's quite interesting to me. Like apologies through like computer mediated communications, like how would it work out? How would sincerity come across? And what are the things that you guys look out for in the first place? And I think that would be quite interesting as well. And I mean, I know some people might be thinking that I'm like asking these questions because I'm personally scared of being cancelled or anything. Who knows? Maybe I am. Maybe I am. I am. But I think it's just a genuine question. I'm just genuinely curious. I hope that no one thinks of it as I have a vested interest in this or anything. I will apologize eventually if one day I do mess up. And I'm sure I will one day.
Yeah.
But yes. Any other final thoughts, John?
No, I think that this topic, or rather this kind of saga, has happened so many times. It's just different contexts, different names. Right? And like, I think people ought to learn from it and also to learn to prevent it by not being in that kind of position in the first place.
Yes.
In any situation, if you encounter a problem like this, the moment you have committed an error is the moment you seek the apology is usually the best.
I agree. Yeah. And I think as like overthink will be expanding soon. But as overthink is expanding soon, as John and I I guess become more than just the two of us, it's less of a group project now. We actually have to work with other people as well. These are this whole saga contains lessons that I will learn as well. And I think they contain lessons of employee relationship and of leadership that are still very important. And as much as I already knew this, I think this saga just further reinforced my impression of what makes good leadership and what should be good leadership. But that's
sometimes as a leader, if it calls for you to live a double life, or rather to split a part of yourself like a Horcrux to go and deal with one side while you work with yourself as a separate entity, by all means, because that's what's important here, right?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I mean, we won't talk about the actual incident too much because once again, don't want to be sued. But you guys can go and form your own opinions on the accusations or the alleged things that have happened. But personally, I think it was a good learning experience, and even an apology is a good learning experience for me as someone with a platform, albeit a small one. And with that, John, I think we have come to the end of this really, really somber episode. But I hope you guys still thought it was very useful and interesting. And with that, IMO Season 2 might be ending soon. We will be telling you guys what dates are the season live stream finale and when the last day of IMO episode will be. The last IMO episode will be coming out for this year. Next year we'll be resuming. Don't worry, we are not going away.
Come and watch us eat hot pot. Yes,
we'll be eating hot pot in the live stream finale. We'll tell you what date it is and with what guests, etc. But with that, thank you guys so much for tuning in for this week's episode. Stay safe, don't get COVID. See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.